just want to document this briefly. I've mixed up some very thin oil wash, lamp black, mixed with some white spirit, and I'm just testing it on this area here just to see how it's going to come out. It's actually a little bit strong. I'm just going to weaken it down a bit by adding some more white spirit. Basically what I want to do is create a wash to go over all the rendered areas, just to darken off that rendering so it stands out from the exposed stone. So I'm best off if I just use the area that's going to be hidden as a test, and I think that's going to be okay. So I'm just going to dab it on very, very lightly, and as you can see, it just with the slightest touch, because it's oil based, spirit based as well, it does actually spread out from the slight touch. So all I'm doing here is just basically darkening off the render to make it look a slightly different colour. Now, it looks quite dark in this light that you're seeing, but it's not as pronounced in real life. It's just going to emphasise the texture. And like I say, it's going to make it the opposite effect. I'm going to make the ornate stone surrounds stand off by having the rendered surface a little darker and more, like I say, the texture brought out. And the great thing about using the spirit-based wash is that it does flow really nicely. You don't have to worry about getting it right up to the edges, because it will just flow. I don't want to oversaturate it so it ends up pooling though, that's the only thing. So just keep loading the brush up and touching it onto the wall and letting it sort of spread out by capillary action. Not going to be on very long, I just wanted to document this bit so the next time I came on live it didn't look like I'd magically changed the wall colour. I hope if you're UK based you've had a lovely bank holiday Monday despite the wet weather we've been experiencing. It's not a bank holiday really without a bit of rain, is it? It just makes planning to do things very tricky if you wanted to do it outside. I'll just make sure I get the tops of these little window covers done as well, because we get a bit of natural build up coming there. The temptation is very high on just running some wash around the stone surrounds, which I might just try and do on the flat, just to exaggerate and emphasise their little gaps in between the rendered areas. Sorry, not the rendered areas, the moulded areas. But this is, like I say, it's doing a nice job of making the textured wall parts just drop back a bit and bringing the moulded bits to life. Gives the building a bit of age as well. I want to get this done before I start fitting windows. It's just the most subtle of shading. Oops, before I turn it round, I've just got a small section here to do. This is an adjoining building. I've still got a lot of work to do on this, but I'm just going to touch this in as well before I glue it in place, because this actually fixes perpendicular to the wall that I've just been doing, but it's a little bit easier doing it in modules. Again, I'm going to lay this down. And perhaps this is going to give me an opportunity to test what the wash is going to look like on the stone mouldings. I'll just look at these blocks down here. It just gives it a bit of age. I still need to do a little bit of work on the stones around that doorway there, just to make it look a little bit more stone-like. But yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. I'll not carry on with that just at the moment. I'm going to set that to one side. Now that's done, I'll move to the other angle. I've got all this wall to do here as well now. This one's not quite as heavily textured, so it's just running a little bit more. I like the fact that it's coming out a bit patchy as well, because that's more reminiscent of the real life aging and weathering of the stonework. All I wanted to do really is have it tint the rendering to a more sort of grey colour, or a greyer version of it, but also just to emphasise the texture that I've put into the walls. So this is the black wash that I'm using. It's basically artist's oil paint, lamp black, and I have just diluted it very, very heavily with white spirit. You can see the way that it spreads out. It just kind of blooms from where you dot it on with the brush. But it's a lot better than using an acrylic water-based wash, because it spreads and blends in a lot better. You end up with tide marks with acrylic washes. They do have their places, but with an acrylic wash, it's certainly the surface tension is a lot different, and it doesn't blend as well. So, pro tip for anybody wanting to use washes when they create models is that oils are much better, or give you a lot better control, shall we say. The only downside to it is that it does take a lot longer to dry, because you've got to wait for the oils to harden, if that's the right word. Anywhere where it's running, I'm just catching it up and blending it back in. I will probably get a slightly better result if I laid this on the flat, but it's not as easy for you guys to see, so I'm just leaving it upright like this. That's the doorway. I'm very quickly running through the bit that I've mixed. I thought I'd have way more than I needed, but it's slowly running out. Like I say, I heavily diluted this because I wanted it to look more grey than black, and just blending in with the surface colour. So the idea is it's a greyer tint of the stonework. The rendered concrete is a greyer version of the ornate stonework. Oops, camera's moving. Not sure if I'm going to have to make some more or not, you know. I just add a little bit more white spirit to the mix, both thinning it out and making it go a bit further. It's just a little bit dark on this side, possibly. haven't fully finished painting this chimney, so we'll probably come back to that. Right, now I've got that washed over, I'm just going to add a little bit of detail to the stonework. So, oops, that was a bit ungainly, wasn't it? I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the camera up there. And we'll just move it down again. I'm just going to wash over a very thin coat over the stonework there. So thin really that it's just not embellishing very much. All I want it to do is to run into the gaps. I think I need to work into those stone gaps lower down a bit better, because it's just not showing up. Over with a knife, sharp scalpel blade, just to embellish those gaps a bit further. This wash wants to be just really subtle. Yeah, I do need to go over and mark off the stonework, especially on the lower window, a bit better, and that a bit better. But that'll probably do for now. I'm really happy with how that's starting to look. It's looking a lot more aged. Without being too overboard. I'll come back and revisit that, I think, in a little while, just to see if I need to add any more detailing to this. But there's quite a nice level of highlight already showing off. I've got the same effect that I need to apply to these gables, which I did some work on last night. I'm not quite ready to stick these in place yet because there's a little bit of work to do to them, but these are going to look amazing when they're done. Right, I've probably got just enough time to do a quick wash of shade over the top of those gables. And in true Lee style, I have lost the tube of grey paint. Black paint even. I'm a master of putting something down and then 5 minutes later losing it completely. I definitely put it down somewhere where I would see it again quite easily, and I'm just not doing. It's just not there. No clue where I've put it. Right, I found it somewhere. Definitely not very obvious at all. So, like I said, artist's oil paint. I just put a little bit in this soft cheese tub, and not got very much of this left yet. Just white spirit. The ratio wants to be quite high, it wants to be quite thin, but the fact that I've not got much left. So just dissolve the oil paint thoroughly into the spirit, making sure all the pigments dissolved, because the last thing you want is to dip your brush into a solid lump of paint and wash it over delicate little modelled areas and end up painting it black instead of a nice detailed wash. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dab test it in a bit that's going to be unhidden, unseen. I'm going to dab some shade into these moulding areas just so they stand off a bit better. The last thing I want to do is to change the colour, really, because I need those moulded areas to stand off a bit better. But I just want to create a little bit of depth into the moulded seams. So again, because it's a thin oil wash, just the lightest touch will actually spread the wash into the areas you want it. Whoops! That's just reminded me why I did that. I wanted to paint those with a wash, and I completely forgot what I was doing. I end up butterflying all over the place. Oh, I'll do this bit. So I do need to put the wash on these mouldings, but primarily I've mixed it to paint those little dormer surrounds. Put a little dab over the top of those sort of little crest things. Just letting gravity make it flow. And we can put a little bit of weather on the sill. Now ideally this wants to be a much deeper wash, so I'll probably go over it 2 or 3 times, because this is a much greyer colour of stone than the rest of it. First instance, I'll just give it a big soak with the wash and letting it tint. It's a lovely little detail of the building, these little ornate mouldings. I might actually just add a little bit more pigment to the mix. Whoops, a broken part of it. It's just a support. I'll glue that back on again afterwards. It's just a support to hold it in place. It's nothing major. Well, it is major, it holds it in place, but it's not detrimental at the moment. I can easily fix that. Where's the other one gone? I had 3 of them. It's hiding. Right, that one there. It's getting to the point where it's not easy to pick up and paint. Let's just hold it with tweezers this time, it's going to make it a bit easier. The sides have yet to be filled in with some tile work, so that's why I'm not bothered about those bits just yet. I'm just going to squeeze a little bit more paint into that mix, make it a bit darker. Like I said, these bits of stone are quite dark. The other thing about using rails as well, if you do go a bit too dark, you can just add some neat white spirit over the top and just thin it down, sort of wash it away, because it takes a while to dry. It's quite easy to thin down, but I want to make this a much darker colour. And this is just perfect for really sort of aging it. These little dormer window surrounds were an awful lot of fun to make, but comprised many layers of laser board to get the depth I required. There. This bit's going to be covered with something else, so I don't need to worry about the colour of that. But stonework shading on there is exactly what I want. And now I'm going to leave those to set, to dry off. And I'm tempted to add extra staining to everything, but I think I'm going to leave it, because it's exactly as I want it, and one of my dangers is to overwork things. So at that point I'm going to just leave it. I just need to make sure my brush is washed. Right, it was going to be a quick one. I said I just wanted to document the colouring of the stone here, and yeah, I'm going to sign off now. So thank you very much for joining me, how this progresses. Please follow me, and I'm on live most evenings around 8:30, 9 PM UK time, and if you look at my YouTube channel here, I'm uploading all my live footage from this build up onto YouTube, so you should be able to see the progress in real time, or more or less. Right, thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon.